Stanton, as always, coming at you. I think this is episode 155. Interesting.
155.
One double nickel, as the kids used to say. So it's a very interesting week. We're winding down the free agency sort of period. The big names finally, kind of come up. Most of them have come off the board. We're going through arbitration now. The Astros just settled one of their arbitration. Actually, I think two of them got set. One was Paredes, and then there was another one that that I think went all the way through arbitration. And then, look, don't forget, pitchers and catchers report in a week.
Right?
I mean, that is
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. It is crazy. It's this week, honestly, when you look at it, just as a sports fan in general, this is an insane next week because we have the Super Bowl this weekend. The Olympics just opened yesterday.
Right.
We have baseball getting ready for spring training and going through the final bit of free agency. The NBA trading deadline is today, by the way, and then the NBA All-Star game is next weekend. This is one of those times in sports. It's like kind of like in early October when like all the fates align and we have a wild sport.
This was as a former player getting ready for, or as a player getting ready
what was
for
that
spring
like?
training. To me, the last hurrah of the offseason was always the Super Bowl. Now it was a week ago.
Right.
Or maybe even 10 days ago, the way, it used to be when the Super Bowl was. And then you always had about, 2.5 weeks before spring training. Okay,
right, exactly. Not anymore.
No, not anymore. I mean, heck, if they push it back any further, Super Bowl is going to be during spring training. They're not going to do that because they want to try and keep them separate. But they just keep, just like our postseason in Major League Baseball keeps getting pushed back and back and back.
Yeah, I mean, it overlaps with basketball, hockey, football.
Right.
I mean, college football. It's all overlapping.
It seems like football is trying to do the same thing. I mean, heck, college football goes on forever.
Look, college football takes way too damn long, especially when they have a huge winter break in between, and so the guy's got a month off.
Well, and that to me, that's where the NCAA. I know we're supposed to be talking baseball, but
right.
That's where the NCAA has to fix that. Okay, where the top teams in the country in the last two seasons since they've gone to 12 playoff teams are 1-6 or 1-7, something like that. I mean, that's ridiculous. Not saying that those teams can't be beat, but I mean, other than Indiana, every other team has looked like a shell of their former selves because they have literally 4 weeks off in between games.
And the problem too is you introduce the portal into that and all the other things that go along. I mean, listen, football was all the problem with college football, and really the problem with college sports in general is always that forever it has revolved around the scholastic year. And when you put things into the scholastic year, they start at like the beginning of September and they end in May, and that's it, and it's over. And so there's nothing, and that's when they want to play the games. That's when students are on campus. I get that, but the way the sports are going now in college, no, they might have to bend around that a little.
Yeah, I mean, even even the playoffs. To tell the truth, what I thought should have happened was when they played the 2 semifinal games.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I think New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Maybe they were both New Year's Eve.
Right,
that should have been the national championship game.
Agreed.
That's when that should have happened. They keep saying, "Oh, the best teams get a bye week." No, they don't. They get a bye month.
Yes.
And there is no sport that.
No.
That's okay with, especially a competitive sport that timing and situations like that have a lot to do with it. And
you keep yourself. Yeah, I mean, as an athlete,
Ohio State or Georgia, I mean, it doesn't matter. The teams were not the same, and they need to fix that.
Well, as well as anybody, as an athlete, especially, that you can't just take a month off and then ramp yourself back up for regular playing.
It is
That's not how it
a
works.
light switch. No, it is not. You can't just turn it off and turn it back on. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, let's talk about another switch, and that is the switch that controls cash flow for the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah,
which is they decided to back up their
pizza.
Cash trucks. Exactly, they decided to back up their cash trucks and pay Framber Valdez $115 million over 3 years, which is
$38.3 million a year,
the most ever paid per year to a left-handed pitcher
Mhm.
in the history of baseball, while they have probably the best left-handed pitcher in all of
Yeah,
baseball still on their
yeah,
roster in Tarek
yeah.
Skubal.
Frommer's going to hold that distinction for one
Ooh,
year
yeah,
because
right.
Derek Struble will be a free agent at the end of the year, and he will go up to 40 plus.
Yeah, exactly. But there is some speculation that the Tigers think that they're going to have to move Tarek Skubal. That essentially their payroll is just going to be too top heavy
Yeah,
with two guys like that, and so this is hedging their bets, right? They signed Framber Valdez.
yeah,
Either they keep Tarek Skubal through maybe the trade deadline, or they go ahead and keep him through. They're going to. I mean, he's coming up for free agency,
yeah.
so this is them sort of hedging their bets and saying, well, maybe we'll have, and if they keep him through the whole season, I mean, they suddenly become a real contender
Oh
with
yeah.
the two of the best, pitchers in baseball, top one and two.
Mhm. And I think there's a chance that that happens
Yeah.
because they now are they're the leading they're the number one team that's going to win, here on paper, that's going to win the Central.
Yeah. Well, AL
When
Central
you
is not
have
exactly a bunch of world
right,
beaters.
and you had a whole bunch of teams that were kind of on the same level, and
Right.
you know they're not a great offensive team. They're not a terrible offensive team
No.
either. But there's two ways to win: you beat teams into submission or run prevention, and that's what this is with Frommer. This is run prevention. I mean, I've been racking my brain all day trying to figure out. This may be the best 1, 2, both being left-handed
Yeah.
pitchers in history. I don't remember having two top of the rotation. Scribbles definitely an ace. Fromber pitches like an ace sometimes, but he's a great number two. The ground ball rate, all that kind of stuff that makes him good.
I'm just
I
thinking
don't
about,
remember two left-handers at the top of a rotation like
did
this.
Randy Johnson ever have a good lefty on
I
the
don't
same,
think so. Not
not
there
like
were some
this.
other guys, but there were no not another top flight
Yeah.
free agent or top flight pitcher,
Yeah.
left-handed pitcher
That are
like
lefties.
Fromber is. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's kind of it's kind of unique.
Well, having 2
Um,
lefties in a starting rotation is unique, period, but having
right.
2 of the better lefties in baseball is
Yeah.
crazy. It's
And
wild.
and, and, and there's an argument. I mean, maybe to the two best left-handers
Right. Oh, no,
in
there's definitely an
baseball.
argument. I mean, certainly Tarek
So
Skubal is,
yeah,
is easily up there, whether
and he's
Fromber is in.
odds-on favorite to win his third in a row. By the way.
It's crazy. So with this deal, there's a couple of things here, just both from an Astros perspective and then from a generally a baseball perspective. But from the Astros side of things, this is fine if you're an Astros fan because there's no way the Astros give Framber Valdez $38 million a
Oh no.
season. No chance. Zero. And the fact is, it didn't appear like there were very many teams out there who were going to give. I mean, the word was is the Pirates were aggressively pursuing him,
Right.
which
That
would
was
have
the
been
last couple
another
days, which I
crazy.
actually said as soon as I heard that, yeah, they're going to be the bridesmaid
Yeah, God. Well,
again.
you can't when you can't afford to be the bride.
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of how it works. But what's fascinating to me about this is, and I want to get your take on this really, especially because you've seen all of this go for a long time.
Mhm.
It seems to me that AAV is starting to become a more important variable for players than long contracts with huge numbers at the
Yeah.
end. And tell me if I mean it because
Well,
you see guys taking
they
it.
go hand in hand. That
Right.
there is there's the rub there, because yes, we've seen we saw Alex Bregman take a long term deal that he didn't want
Right.
any opt outs. He didn't he wanted a full no trade
That's
clause
rare.
because he's going. Yeah, actually, it's very rare in today's game because
Mhm.
opt outs are like they throw that in to seemingly every big contract, which
Right.
Fromber has an opt out after year two.
Yep.
Um, so what really happens here is, are you going to take are you going to take the long term? It's gosh, man, it's just tough because are you going to take the stability of the long-term deal,
Hmm.
maybe a lower AAV? And then now we've seen, the biggest of contracts with long-term deal, but that's not really what most of the free agents have been
Right.
signing. And really, I blame it. I don't blame it. I want to say that's due to Major League Baseball.
Definitely.
It's not the players. The players are reacting to what the offers are.
Right.
And, in order for a guy like Fromber to sign a shorter term deal, you got to jack up the AAV. Now, I really wasn't expecting him. I thought he was going to be maybe around 30 at the top. I didn't
Yeah.
think he was going to get all the way up to close to
I
40.
think most of the predictions were between like 25 and 30, like
Yeah.
in that general range,
But
upper
if he was
20s,
going to
lower
do a
30s.
3-year deal, maybe it's
Hmm.
33, maybe it's
Right.
34. I didn't expect him to get all the way up
Mm.
to almost $39 million. But hey, you know what? To each their own.
Hey, if you
And
can get it.
you talk to general managers, they'll tell you that there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal, regardless of how big it is, because
Right.
it's only 1 year. You don't have that long term exposure on the books. Um, and it's a 3-year deal,
Hmm.
potentially a 2-year deal,
Right.
and I completely, especially in Detroit, um, very pitcher friendly ballpark.
Yeah.
Weather's not the best, especially early and late in the
Oh, yeah.
season. Natural grass. There's not really that many of those left around anymore.
Good for
So
Fromber.
yeah, and that all means high ground ball rate,
Hmm.
and lots of ground balls, and go ahead and let it fly. Get the ball in the air if you want, because it's
Hmm.
a big ballpark. So I
Right.
completely expect him. He's probably going to opt out after year two.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still $38 million on the table, but he'll be 34, I think,
Hmm.
about
That's
that
right.
time. So there's
Yeah, I think
probably
so.
another 3-year deal on the table for him
And
at
it's
that
and
age.
it should be after the players and owners negotiate whatever they're going to negotiate after next year.
Right.
The reason I bring up the AAV is because the Astros are not shy about AAV. They're shy about long-term deals. And
Yeah.
so if deals are beginning to become more of these shorter with higher annual values, that's something that benefits the Astros because the Astros, look, Jim Crane has no problem spending boatloads of money, in a single season, but he doesn't want
Yeah.
to be tied to players for long periods of time.
He
So,
doesn't
and
want
it's reasonable.
the long-term exposure. I mean, that's a good business model.
It is.
That's why you got teams like the Nationals with
Hmm.
whether it's the Strasburg contract or
Right.
whatever it is. These guys are on the hook for. I mean, look at the Met. We have
Oh
uh,
yeah.
the Mets. We have every single year. We have a celebration of a long term
They just
deal,
keep signing people like it's nothing. God.
and you kind of push it back, but it's still got to be paid. And
Yeah.
now, listen, with Fromber, the AAV actually is not 38.33 million dollars a
Hmm.
year. That's what we're calling it, but there are some deferrals. I don't know how much.
Sure.
I haven't seen the exact number, so it's going to be a little less than that,
Yeah.
depending on how long you're deferring the money out. But
Right.
bottom line is, Fromber got paid, and rightly so.
Yeah. Good for
Now
him.
I don't know if he's a $40 million pitcher, but
Uh,
actually he is, because that's what somebody was willing to pay
right. Well, that's it.
him.
Hey, you are what you're paid.
That's
I mean,
right.
that's the famous line. You are what your record says you are.
And then, as
I'm.
far as Struble is concerned, I don't expect they are not trading him now. There's no reason to trade him now.
Yeah.
He's his arbitration case. They actually had the hearing yesterday. That should be decided today. I'm surprised to that. I think we've actually talked about that. That I expected them to agree to terms,
Yeah.
because both sides actually have an argument, and the Tigers, I thought, did a great job of setting the record for the highest arbitration pitcher, um, with their minimum offer.
Yeah.
They set the record with that number. And one of the things that arbitrators do look at is, what does it mean to the whole market?
Mm.
So if Terrence Grubel wins, and there's a chance he does win,
Hmm.
because when you're in your last year of arbitration, you actually get to compare yourself to free agency, and
Right.
that's where the $32 million
Well, and
came
two
from.
times two Cy Youngs in a row ain't gonna hurt
Right,
his case.
right. But as far as the arbitrator and Major League Baseball is concerned, so you're going to completely just jump over the whole $20 million category and go straight into 30, because the Tigers were at 19 and change. And so this is going to be fascinating because, like
Is
I
it just
said, both
is it
sides
well,
have an
also
argument.
is it just me, or is it convenient that the Tigers signed Fromber after that arbitration hearing was held?
Well,
Like,
but they haven't got the result of it yet.
but I mean, even so, they weren't, Scooble couldn't argue that, hey, Fromber got $38 million.
True,
I mean, that would have
true,
been a great, I mean, that's basically an apples to apples comparison. Two left-handed
right,
pitchers, this our own team gave him that money. I
yeah,
mean, that would have made a hell of an argument if you're Tarek
right.
Scooble.
Right. Yeah,
So I don't
32
know.
32 doesn't look like such a big number. Yeah, it
No.
does. Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
it
Yeah, it
does. Are
does.
you kidding me? I'll take 32 million.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, anybody out there willing to give me $32 million,
Hey, am I
I'm
greedy that I'll just
taking.
take one?
I'll take
Just one.
1 million. It's just a measly old million. In today's world of billionaires,
Hey,
$1 million
I'll throw
is
this
like
out there.
it's like lunch.
I'll pitch every single solitary day for the minimum. I'll play for the minimum.
Oh, me too. Speaking of arbitration, the Astros avoided arbitration with Isaac Paredes.
Mhm.
They split the difference with him. He's going to get 9 million. We're going to have next week when pitchers and catchers have reported, we're going to have to dig into the lineup and kind of see where we're at. There's been some interesting statements made both by Joe Espada and by Dana Brown about how they're going to work out those log jams. About I mean, Dana Brown, if he, I, s- I swear, if I think the old joke with kids make is like, oh, you love it so much you want to marry it. I think he
Right.
loves left-handed bats so much he wants to marry them, because that's all he can seem to talk about right now is how
Right.
desperately they want another left-handed bat. We can dig into that, but I did think it was interesting they settled with Paredes basically right down the middle
Mhm.
of his arbitration and avoided having to go through that process.
So I think we've talked about this before, but let people understand exactly how the arbitration
That's a
process
good idea.
works. Okay, and what it is the high number and the low number. The filing numbers really don't matter except for one thing, and that's the midpoint. That is
Mhm.
the key. It's not, is Scooble worth $32 million? That's not the question. The question is you divide it in half, which was what is it, 35 or 25 and a half or
Something like
26,
that.
whatever it is. That is the key. And when you go into the hearing, so what you have to do is you have to prove that you are worth $1 more as a player,
Well,
that
yeah,
I'm worth
then the midpoint.
$1 more than the midpoint. And then the other side, Major League Baseball, has to prove that he's worth $1 less than the midpoint. And the thing is, once the doors close on the hearing, it's all or nothing. There are no more deals to be cut.
Right.
Now you either win or you lose. And with Screwball, you talk about a $13 million difference.
It's a lot.
So it's gonna be fascinating to see exactly how this turns out. I do think with this case going to hearing, the Tigers have no chance of resigning him. There's no reason for him to. There's not going to be any discount. There's not going to be any
Mhm.
extension. He is going to free agency. Now, if they are a competitive club, they being the Tigers, with Scooble and Fromber at the top of the rotation, he may not even be moved at the trade deadline.
Right.
If they feel like they have a real chance of making a big run in the postseason,
Sure.
then they may keep them both and just ride it out. It wouldn't be the first time. We've seen the Astros do it. We saw
Mhm.
Kansas City do it a couple times.
Yep.
So there are precedents being already set to hold on to players as they go into their free agent,
Oh, there's
into
no
free
question.
agency.
Yeah, there's no question. I think if you're a team that thinks you can win right now,
Mhm.
if you think you can get to potentially even win the World Series right now, there's zero incentive for you to move on.
Yeah.
At that
Well,
point, you
I'll
got to be greedy.
I'll split hairs here,
Mhm.
and because we also have seen teams that were in the mix that
Mhm.
did go ahead and move some of their important
It's true.
pieces. And
That's more
what's the
money thing though,
well, it's
oftentimes.
money, but it's also future
Yeah,
because
that's
you
true.
have listen, Tarek Scrubble is not more valuable right now than he is at the trade deadline. You go, well, hold on. You got 3.5 months of baseball,
Mhm.
extra baseball, yes. But what you don't have right now is you don't have the emotion of a pennant chase.
Yeah.
That's where the trade deadline comes into play. That, yeah, now, um, a team that maybe has always been a little bit short, and they do have a real chance now, because when you trade for a guy like Scuba, you're talking about several top prospects
Oh,
coming
100%.
back, and that can actually make or break your next 5 or 6 years.
It's true. That I think there is a real in baseball in particular. I think it happens in other sports too, but I think really in baseball the sort of the sort of sell high mentality does benefit GMs who are willing to do it.
Yeah.
There aren't very many that are willing to do it because because it is your job on the line. If you make a move and you trade a really great player to another team and you get back prospects and those prospects don't really pan out as well as you would like them to, then it becomes a real problem.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to sort of bet on the fact that you can develop talent, then you can replenish and restock your minor
Yeah.
league system real fast
Yeah.
if you're willing to get rid of
And
some
we've
better
seen
players.
countless teams in the past that have extended their windows
Mhm.
by bringing in top talent for major league players going the other way. and
Yep.
and so the thing is, that's why one of the first things that the media loves to talk about as soon as a trade goes down
Mhm.
is, oh, who won the trade. Well,
Yeah.
you don't know who won the trade for
Not in
5 or 6 years,
baseball. Not
depending
in
on how those prospects work
right.
their way, work
Maybe
out.
not.
So
You might in another sport, but definitely not in
no,
baseball. In
no,
baseball, you got a
you
ways
got
to
to wait.
go. You
You got
got
to
a
wait.
ways to go. So let's talk. So we're still talking about pitching. Let's talk a little bit about the Astros pitching, particularly their starting rotation, because
Mhm.
I think we're pretty locked in at this point that we're going to have Hunter Brown, Christian Javier, and Tatsuya Imai 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Brown's going to be one, whether Javier's two or Imai's two. It's basically those are going to be your top three. I think it's
Right.
pretty clear. Then that leaves you with an interesting batch of other players behind them. I think Spencer Arrighetti is going to slot in there somewhere because he's shown that
As long
he's
as he's healthy.
healthy.
As long as he's
Yeah,
healthy.
and
Yeah.
he's fully healthy. And so if he's healthy, you figure he's going to be in that.
Yeah. And
And we got
he's got good metrics too. I mean,
right,
they like the swing and miss.
right.
He's got the low 3/4 arm slot. He's got the break and stuff. With Spencer is always going to be, can if he gets ahead in the count, he can be devastating.
Yes,
It's
he just
just a
has
matter of throwing strikes.
control.
But to me, if he's healthy, he has what he's already done in his career. I think that he at least gets penciled in at the beginning. He's still
Right.
going to have to perform, but he
Agreed.
at least gets penciled into one of those rotation spots.
And what that leaves you with is an inch. I mean, and I've talked about this, but I think they're definitely going to have a 6-man rotation to start the season.
No
They
doubt.
play something like 22 of their first 24 days, something
Yeah.
crazy like that coming out of the gate. It's always good for you to have extra pitching in that
Mhm.
first,
Month and
month
a
or
half.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's no question they'll go 6. So Lance McCullers, listen, he's going to have to be part of the Astros 40 man or they're going to have to DFA him.
Yeah.
There's one
It's a
it's
big
all
spring
or
training for Lance.
it
It's a
is.
big spring training.
It's basically all or nothing at this
Mhm.
point for him because he will be a free agent after this year.
And the
There's
and the money is spent.
yeah, the money's already
I
done.
mean, and that now he hasn't been paid, but the money.
No.
When I say the money is spent, when you
Yep.
sign a guy into a long-term
Contract.
deal, that's that exposure we were talking about
Yep.
earlier. So
Yep.
that
And
money's already gone. So if he doesn't work out in spring training,
right.
the velocity's down. Maybe there's another hiccup with his health, whatever it is.
Mhm.
They will have to seriously consider going ahead and just
Yeah.
letting him go. Thank you for your success.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see how that goes. He's the wild card. I think Mike Burrows probably ends up with one of those two other spots,
I
although
agree.
he is a guy who can play a little bit of both. He can play a little out of the pen, a little.
Mhm.
But then you look and you've got quite a list of guys. Last year, the savior for this team really was Jason
Yes, it
Alexander,
was.
because
Yeah, second
without
half of the
him,
season.
the Astros do not. I mean, if they don't
Not even
have good pitching,
close. Not
yeah,
even
he was.
close. They're not even close to the playoffs.
Right. And so he was tremendous last year. So you've got him. You've got this kid Weiss who came over from Korea, who
Right.
supposedly is a very, very solid pitcher, who they envision as a starter. You have young guys like AJ Blueball, Colton
Mhm.
Gordon, Miguel Ulola.
Yeah,
they recently brought over Wei Tang in a deal because they think they can sort of
yeah, from the
recoup.
Giants.
Yeah, so they think they can sort of recuperate his career. I mean, there's a and look, we learned our lesson for 2 years in a row. You can never have too much pitching
Well, the
ever.
one thing that hopefully Dana, Dana learns
Mhm.
from his experience of the past is don't say we're good with pitching because
Right.
that's what happened a few years ago when, yeah, we're solid with our pitching. We're 7 or 8 deep, and then early in
Mhm.
the season you lose 60% of your rotation. And that's when guys like Spencer Arrighetti came up out of necessity, not
Right.
because he really was ready, because I don't think he was.
I don't think
Did a
so
great
either.
job of developing at the big league level, which doesn't happen very often. Usually,
No.
when a guy struggles out of the box, you got to send him back down and kind of get his confidence back. But
Right.
I think it was, if I remember correctly, after his first 7 starts, he was good. He really kind of righted the ship,
Yeah.
but that was out of necessity. So yeah, Dana, don't say anything about how good your pitching is. You can
Well,
always use more pitching.
well, the other thing too is, listen, the Astros are doing everything they can. It's pretty clear to get themselves in a position where they have enough guys on the 40-man roster with options that it
Right.
gives them flexibility. Because that is something that was a struggle for the Astros last year.
Yeah.
And when you look at their 40-man roster, like a really good example of this is Roddery Munoz, who, if you haven't heard of him, Roddery Munoz was a pitcher that the Astros took from Cincinnati in the Rule 5 draft.
Mhm.
Now, the rule of the Rule 5 draft is if you take a guy, he has to be on your major league roster all year or
The
he
whole
goes
season.
back.
Yeah. Or he goes
And
back. That's right.
so he's a relief pitcher, so you assume he'll be in there, but if he just explodes, you're going to lose a guy. It's not just you can't
Right.
send him down. He is stuck on your roster.
Yeah.
So they have some guy. I mean, like Cesar Salazar. I think he's out of options as their backup catcher. They have a lot of guys who are on the bubble, right? I don't know how
Yeah.
close Shea Whitcomb is to being, but he's not that far away. I
Right.
mean, there are a number of guys that are kind of on the bubble of this of making the team, not making the team, who, if they don't make the team, they might
Right.
get have to get
Well, and
released.
here's the other side of it. Just a little side note, just
Mhm.
to show exactly where they are. If I remember correctly, I think the Astros 40-man roster is full.
It is full.
Like, they
It
have
is.
all
Yeah.
40 spots taken,
They
and
had
that usually doesn't happen. You usually try and keep one spot open for some kind of
right.
move or something you need to make. But with all the situations you just talked about,
Right.
and all these different guys, they you have to hold on one second.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, the deal that they just while Mike hits the cough button, the deal that they just made
Thank
for
you.
Tang happened like that happened. They had to release JP France.
Right.
I mean, that was
Yeah.
so those are the kind of
So
moves that are
and
gonna
those
have
are
to happen.
hard moves to make, because
Yes,
if you remember when JP France was when he was right, he was a solid big league
he
pitcher, but
was.
has been right in a while.
No.
But he was one of those guys. I think in that year that they lost the 60% of the
Yes.
rotation. I think
That's
JP France was one of the guys that
he
came up and
was.
he pitched well in the second half.
Oh, no, he did. He was a solid back of the
Could
rotation
spin the
starter. So
ball, spin the ball.
yes, it is a very interesting predicament that they have themselves in with a full 40-man roster. I think that the reason it's particularly interesting is because, as we talked about, especially in the starting rotation, there are going to be guys coming up and down from the minor leagues throughout the
Yeah.
first couple of months of the season. They're
Well,
going to
really
have to
all
be.
year. I mean, to tell you the truth, the
True.
idea that you have a 26-man roster and that's who you're going to battle with
Never
is
happens.
is a farce.
Well, especially
I
in
mean, you're
pitching.
you're talking about, I mean, even the best of teams,
Mhm.
because listen, nobody really plays 162 games anymore.
Right.
I mean, heck, if you play, you're a workhorse as a position player if you play
Right.
150 games.
Right. Anything over
Um,
150, you may as
so you're
it's yeah.
looking at, we talk about the 40-man roster. Heck, you're looking at maybe more than 40 players that have to come up and down depending on your injuries, depending on lack of performance,
Mhm.
whatever it is. So yeah, it truly is. It takes a community
It does.
to
Yeah, it
get
does. It takes
to
a
get through.
village.
It takes the whole
That's right.
organization to get
Well,
through the get
and
through a
it
season.
particularly does in the pitching staff. I
Yeah,
mean, you might have roughly the same starting lineup for the year. You maybe a couple of guys here and there,
yeah,
you know, you go up and down. You have that, but the lineup, listen, the Astros, they're not going to move a lot of guys out of their infield. They're going to be pretty static. But in the pitching, especially relief pitching, and then
Yeah.
it's back into starters, that happens all the time. You get a guy that's like, who I've never heard of this guy before in my entire life. Why is he starting? That happens every year. It's
Sure,
like some
sure.
guy, they're like, who is this guy? And you're like,
Which
oh
is
yeah,
which is really unique in this day and age that
it
kind of
is.
everybody knows who the minor leaguers are. Back when
Right.
I was playing, if you didn't get Baseball America, you had no idea who was in
Right.
your organization.
Now you can I subscribe to a few different services just to keep up on it, and I can't keep up with it. And
Right.
I write
No,
about it, and we do
it's a
this podcast.
daily that is
Ugh.
a daily study hall thing that you have to sit down and you have to read and look into it
It's
and
kind of like learning about prospects before the NFL draft. Like these guys do that. Like Lance Zierlein, who's been on radio for years, and I've known for a long time. He does for the NFL Network. He does like all their draft prospects, and
Mhm.
I talked to him about it not too long ago, a couple of years ago, maybe we were chatting about it. He said he spends months on it, like going through the tape and watching
Oh
things and
yeah,
making
no
draft.
doubt.
And I'm like, yeah, and that's the NFL draft, which is 7 rounds. What do you got, like 37,000 rounds or whatever it is in baseball? How do you even know that
Right.
some kid in some high school in like Duluth? Like, how does anybody
Well,
know
and then there's
anybody?
so many, the hard part, with football, I don't want to say it's easier because it's not,
No,
but how
but it's
fast is he? How high can he
right,
jump? How much can he lift?
right.
That kind of stuff. In
Measurables.
baseball, you're trying. It's there's intangibles that are
Oh
off
yeah,
the chart, but there's also, you know, you don't know what one guy is going to look like from one year to the next, much less
especially
how he's going to
kids,
perform. Yeah.
especially
High
kids,
school
and
ki
there's
that's why especially high school pitchers, Major League Baseball, they look
yeah,
at it's high risk. That's why you don't see a whole lot of really high draft picks come out of high school because
right,
high school pitcher, that's a long way from the big leagues, and there has to be some real
right.
time and money put into
Well, you
player
would know.
development. Yeah.
You would know, you work with them. I mean, then speaking like, think about never mind the kids from high school in America,
Mhm.
the kids they sign are
Oh
15 and
yeah.
16 years old in Latin
The
America.
international, yeah. Well, that's why
Unbelievable.
most organizations, or at least the ones that are on the cutting edge
Mhm.
of finding those international talents, they all have what they call academies, which are kind
Right.
of semi high school,
Yeah.
situations that yeah, it's not something that the uh, major league organization, the player development side of it, or the scouting side of it, is maybe not up to the minute.
Mhm.
But you have these guys that you got a 14-year-old that's
Yep.
throwing 82, and in 3 years he's 16, 17 years old, and he's throwing 98. And there's just no
Crazy.
sometimes there's just no way to predict it. I mean, a perfect example is a current Hall of Famer and Billy Wagner. Billy Wagner was a
Right.
D3 player. He was
That's right.
throwing hard, but he wasn't throwing crazy hard. And because you would have never thought that from his frame that you
Right.
would get that kind of longevity and that kind of success at the big league level. But that just shows you never know.
Well, listen, we'll one other thing, and then we'll leave it at that. Because you do work with kids,
Mhm.
has anyone ever come along and just like surprised you where you're like, "Oh, what the
Yeah,
hell?" Like, I mean, where you see a kid and you're like, "Oh, oh, I
sure.
didn't expect that out of this kid." Like, and what do you do
Yeah.
when that happens? Like,
Well, I mean, a lot of it depends on how old they are.
mhm,
What are their not just what they're projecting, but what do they want to do?
right.
Do they want to try and play in college?
Mhm.
Um, because I've had a couple players that were very good high school players that just they wanted to play through high school, and that was it. And it doesn't happen very often because there's a lot of time and effort and money that's
Yeah.
put into amateur baseball. So, but
Right.
have I been surprised? Absolutely, I've been surprised many times. I've got a couple right now that I think are on the verge of being something really special, but they're young.
Right.
One's a freshman in high school, um, and he's grown like 4 inches in the last
Yeah.
6 months, 8 months. He's big, he's strong, he throws hard, he hits. But You never know. He's an easy one to see. The ones that aren't is guys that maybe aren't the biggest in stature,
Right.
but just have the instincts or just know how to get the bat on the ball or know how to
Right.
move the ball around in the strike zone. And those are the intangibles that just the raw data just can't see.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And of course, the drive and a willingness to
Sure.
do all of it too. Like we were just talking before we came on. If you guys haven't seen it, go find the video of 39 or 40-year-old Lindsey
Yeah.
Vaughn who tore her
Crazy.
ACL 2 weeks ago and is working out because she's going to ski at the
She's still
Olympics.
going to ski.
Unbelievable. Like this is the kind of stuff I mean, the athleticism and the determination that it takes to do
Yeah.
something like that is off the charts.
Yeah,
Just crazy. That's why
that's
she's
crazy. And
that's why
and
she's
at
so great.
40 years old, she's
Oof.
still, one of the best downhillers in the world and has been. I mean, heck, how many different Olympics, Winter Olympics have we? Well, this is Lindsay's last hurrah. She's
Right.
she's gonna retire after this. Then
Right.
she's back again
Then
in four
she's like, "No,
years.
I'm good. I'm gonna get back up on that hill." It's like,
Right.
man, they are impressive. The Olympic and speaking of which, Olympics start this weekend.
Yeah,
I love the Winter Olympics. I think they're fun because I don't get to see
they're fun.
snow. And so it'll be fun to watch. And and of course my wife loves it because it's the figure skating. And so, my
There
wife
you
loves
go.
figure skating. So I get to watch this. I get to watch the ski jumpers, which always terrifies the
Hmm.
hell out of me,
Right.
and stuff,
Right.
and the snowboarders and all that kind of stuff. And
Yep.
she can watch the ice dancing, and that's fine.
Actually,
That's
I
all good.
have right around the corner. I have a Olympic medalist that was a speed skater.
Oh,
I
wow.
can't remember his name,
There is a
but
woman apparently this year who is an American who it may take gold in speed skating on the short
that's
track. I saw a thing
that's
about it the other day.
yeah, that is crazy how fast they go.
I don't.
Crazy.
No thanks. That's not. I'm good with the speed that
Well,
I'm.
and then if you fall, you're basically got
Mm-mm.
Ginsu knives on the bottom of
Exactly.
your
No, it's
feet.
exactly. You're not only are you falling, but you're
That's right.
falling through a series of razor blades.
That's
Like, and
right.
it's like,
That's
no
right.
thanks. I'm good. I'm pretty good. I'll keep my feet on regular ground. I'll stay off the ice as far if you don't mind. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. As always, go Astros.
Adios.